All right, I think we're here finally. Good grief, things working against me tonight. Welcome to the weekly live broadcast. I should start making this a bi-weekly live broadcast. I've had to skip out every other week, it seems like. But anyway, while we're here, hang on a second. I got to get kind of set up here real quick, and then we'll get going. All right, so like I said, everything working against me tonight. I was just getting ready to, set up the live broadcast, jump on, and something came up from work last minute, so I had to take care of that stuff. Thought it was going to keep me a lot longer than it was, but I made it anyway. Then I get the live broadcast, get it all set up, get ready to go, and just about to hit go live, and all of a sudden YouTube app shuts down. I live stream through the YouTube app on my phone. The YouTube app shuts down on my phone and has to install. So it's been one thing after another, but I made it. We're here. So good evening to you guys. Thanks for being patient with me. Thanks for making it in here. We've got Robert Spencer and Hannah Mathis. Hello to you guys. Robert Hermson, I think it is. Good evening. Hatch Poultry's here. You missed us last week, Hatch. I was wearing your shirt. I got my brand new Hatch Poultry shirt last week. Wore it, and you didn't even show up, but that's okay. We advertised for you anyway. Elsie LeBron, I think it is. Hello. Eugene Valentine, good evening. Derek Washington and J.R. Bailey says howdy all from the oil patch of central Wyoming, I think that is. Fan Me says, can you tell me how to tell if my rabbit is pregnant? Oh boy, that's a good question. Don't worry about it, Hatchie. I know you got busy. It's all good. Don't be upset. I'm just giving you a hard time. It's fine. You don't have to make it to every live broadcast. It's okay. I haven't been making it about half of them lately. All right, Fan Me. How to tell if your rabbit is pregnant. Very, very tricky. I've actually done video on that before, but it's a very tricky thing to be able to do. If you bred your rabbit, you know she was bred, count out 30 days from there. So if you can't tell for sure, just assume she's bred, she's pregnant. Put a nest box in, 29 days, 28 days, somewhere right around in there. You can try to palpate the rabbit, which is very, very difficult to do. Basically, you put your hand underneath her abdomen, very lower part of her abdomen, and you push up and you try to feel, and you should feel like feels like marbles along there. Now, it's very easy to mistake, the what do I say, the intestinal tract, the things that are in there, as rabbit pellets, basically as babies at that point, because it's just very hard to tell. Even people that are pretty experienced, it's tricky to do palpating on a doe. That is one thing that you can do. Other than that, they don't really display many signs. They don't necessarily gain weight. They don't necessarily start eating more. They don't. Sometimes you will notice rabbits change personality. So you may have like a rabbit that's really friendly and all of a sudden gets really aggressive or grumpy. That can be a sign. You may have a rabbit that is grumpy and then all of a sudden gets really friendly and very easy to handle. That can be a sign sometimes too, but those aren't for sure signs. One thing you can do is as the rabbit gets close to that day that you expected to have babies, which is about 30 days from the day it was bred, take a handful of straw, throw it in her cage. Do that about every day. About a week out from when she's expected to give birth. Throw a handful of straw in there every day. And when she picks it up, starts running around the cage with it, hanging out both sides of her mouth, it'll be pretty obvious. That's a really good sign that she's about ready to have babies. She is definitely pregnant. Some rabbits will do that behavior, tend to do it just like the day before they have their babies. So those are a couple of things that you can do. I'm sorry I don't have a for sure, like this is the sign, this is the way to do it, but that's about the best advice I can give you, unfortunately. All right, Finn Drennan says hello. Have a question about quail. Do they need grit and calcium? Also, do you need to clip their wings? Okay, that all depends. First of all, let me grab a drink here real quick. All right, first of all, do they need grit? Not necessarily. If all you're feeding them is like a game bird crumble, a commercial game bird feed, they don't need grit in their diet. The only time they're going to need grit is if they're eating like a more natural diet, which primarily would exist of seeds and insects and all those kinds of things. So if you're feeding them a lot of those things, then yeah, it's probably good to provide grit. But honestly, anything's going to work for grit, like sand, even dirt for the most part. It's got little bitty pebbles and things like that in it. That's going to work for grit. That's the only time they're really going to need grit, though, is if they're on a primarily natural diet, so to speak. As far as calcium, again, if you're feeding them a game bird starter and it's got about 1.5% to 2% calcium, somewhere right around in there, they don't need any additional calcium either. So it really kind of depends on whether your feed is a good quality feed or not. The ideal calcium weight for a quail is about 1.5 to 2%, somewhere right around in there. If you give too much calcium, it can actually be a bad thing. So if you do need to supplement their calcium, you don't want to mix that in with their feed. You would want to provide that in a separate container and just let them have as much as they want of that, because they will self-regulate it themselves. If you mix it in with their feed, then you up the calcium of the feed. They don't have a choice. They're going to eat that when they're eating the feed, and you can give them too much calcium. So you probably don't need to add calcium or don't need to add grit as long as you're feeding like a game bird starter or a turkey starter or something like that. Now, if you're feeding a chicken starter, that may have a little bit lower protein levels than what they need. I always like to give them about 25% or higher protein. You can, if you can't find good turkey starter, good game bird starter in your area with a higher protein, you can add protein to that, like cat food or catfish food, one or the other. Grind it up a little bit and mix it in with their feed. Basically, you'd have to do some math to figure out what the protein levels are. It's not terribly complex math, but you'd have to do a little bit of math to figure out how much food you need to add to your quail food to up the the protein levels. What was the other question you had here? Oh, do you need to clip their wings? I don't find it necessary to clip their wings. They're not great flyers. Mine aren't anyway. Now, I assume if you kept them in an aviary, a large flight pen or something like that, they'd probably become better flyers. But they're not great flyers. I don't find it necessary to clip their wings. Most of the time, if I have one that gets out, when it first gets out, it first takes off, it'll do a pretty good flight. I'd say maybe 8 feet in the air, probably 40, 50 feet, something like that. And then it hits the ground. And then if you stay on it, they wear out pretty quick. So it doesn't go very far the next time. And then in the next time, it doesn't go very far, even less. So, they wear out pretty quick. They're not great flyers. I've never found it necessary to clip their wings. But, if that's something you want to do, you can definitely do that if you think it's going to help. But again, it's not something I figured was necessary. So anyway, hopefully that helps. Excuse me. So, Quail says, what's up? Well, nothing really. Hopefully you guys are doing fine. Robert, first time back in a couple of months. Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. And William Green, hello to you. Jackie Curra says, I've got 650 breeding does and $75. Cheers from Canada. My goodness, that's a big setup. It's a lot to keep up with. So cheers to you too. And man, I don't know how you do it. That seems like a whole lot. All right, Chris Garcia says, hello, brother from California. Hello to you. JR says, 2Hatch Poultry. Says, just sent y'all's sales team a question about buying 330 jumbo pharaohs from you. So there you go, Hatch. You're getting some business, it looks like. If you're in stock, a couple of things. I did want to bring this up. Last week we had somebody mention that they ordered from, maybe it was Hatch Poultry or maybe it was Kansas City Quail Farms, one or the other, or maybe it was both, and said that they were out of stock of things or there were backlogs, so it was going to be a couple of weeks before they could get an order to them. Realize something, this is the busy time of year for hatcheries. So, don't hold that against them if they're out of a certain, whatever, or they're backlogged, it's going to be back ordered and it's not going to be out for a couple of weeks. This is a time of year when everybody is ordering like crazy. So just expect that. If you haven't placed an order yet and you want to place an order now, there may be a little bit of a delay in getting it to you. I'm not saying that Hatch Poultry is out of things. He'll be able to tell you better than I am, but I'm just saying if he is, it's not his fault. It's just there's a huge amount of demand on stuff right now. So it's just that time of year. All right, Rhonda. Hey, Rhonda. Good to see you. Says a long time, been busy. We got 6.6 acres 2 weeks ago, raw land, so been busy clearing it. Awesome. I know you've been working towards that for a while. So congratulations on that. I'm glad to hear it. Hopefully it's all going well. All right, Kurt Stewart says hello tonight. How are things? Not bad on my part. Good, Kurt. I'm glad to hear it. Not bad here. It's been just incredibly busy, but that's not a bad thing. It could be a lot worse. I could not have a job at all, so I'm not complaining. All right, Robin's Nest says, I'm going on lockdown tonight. I'll have baby quail this weekend. Lots of babies. Well, fantastic. Good luck with your hatch. Hopefully it goes well. How's the light tonight? I moved the light a little bit last time we had. They were talking about the video looked a little bad. It looked a little bit fuzzy, and I can still see over, make sure I'm pointing the right side. I can still see on this side, it's a little bit kind of cloudy right here. I think where the light's coming in. I'm filming on iPhone. It's not the best, but hopefully things are going good. Hopefully it looks better. So I'll ask that question. I'll get to those comments, I guess, here in a minute. All right, where are we at here? Oh, where we at? William Chapman. Hello from Alabama. I'm not able to keep birds. People are going crazy over chicken and quail here. Boy, I know what you're talking about. People are going crazy over everything right now. Actually, views have been up on the channel a little bit lately, and I think it's a lot of people are really looking to getting into raising some of their own meat, some of their own eggs, some of their own vegetables. So I imagine the views for all the channels similar to mine are going up a little bit right now. So thank you guys that are new viewers for watching. I appreciate that, and hopefully you're finding the videos helpful. Lots of great content out there by lots of great creators. So eat it all up. If you got spare time, go for it. All right. J.R. Bailey wants to know from Rhonda, where is y'all's new place, and is there a creek through it? Boy, that'd be nice if there was, wouldn't it? Daryl says, hi, Chris. God bless you. I've been praying for you and your family. Just felt you needed extra prayer. Well, thank you so much. Can always use prayer. Everybody can use prayer all the time, I think. Nothing really crazy has been going on lately. I think, my wife, for the most part, her health is doing pretty good right now. She did have to go to the doctor, have some testing run. We're waiting on some results from that. It doesn't at this point sound like anything serious. If it is, I will reach out and ask for more prayer for that. But so far, God's been good to us, and things are going pretty well for us. So praise God for that. Where are we at here? Eugene just had a litter of 8 giant chinchilla Rex cross. Awesome. Congratulations on your new bunnies. Hatch Poultry. Okay, that's a response to a question asked specifically to them. Let's get through this because we are shorter on time tonight than most of the time. Family says, thank you, just started breeding. You're absolutely welcome. You guys see this? I'm going to take a break here for a second from answering questions. See this little scratch on my nose? I don't know if you can see that or not. Right there. Good grief, that thing bled like crazy. I'll tell you, I guess it's probably an embarrassing story, but I don't get embarrassed too easily. I was sitting here working. I start work about 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. I have a bunch of reporting I have to pull and send off to our clients and things. And anyway, so I was working 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning. This little gnat was flying around in front of me like that. It started coming at me. So I swung at it to grab it, to knock it out of the air and, well, kill it. And I caught my nose with my thumbnail as I did it. I just hit myself right in the nose and just peeled off a piece of skin. That thing bled like, I mean, you would have thought it was a deep, deep gash in my nose. It was just a little bitty scratch. My goodness, it bled forever. Like, I put a Band-Aid on it, like hours later, pulled the Band-Aid off, bleed again. It was just crazy hard to get under control. So anyway, if you notice it, that's what's happening. That's what's going on right there. So, all right. Where are we at here? Rhonda says, yeah, it has a creek and a pond on it. Fantastic. I'm jealous. Edwin says, do you have a video on how to freeze rabbit meat? I have some videos on, or I have a video on how to prepare meat for freezing, not necessarily how to freeze it. I always put it I have a freezer, a vacuum sealer. What's it called? Food saver. There we go. Vacuum sealer. So I vacuum seal it and I put it in the freezer that way. But more importantly is what you do with your meat before you freeze it. So once you process your rabbits, it's always best, whether it's rabbits, whether it's quail, whether it's chickens, whether any animal, it's always best to let it rest for a little while before you freeze it or cook it. Now, you can process a rabbit or an animal of any kind and cook it right away, but you got to be fairly quick. Rigor mortis sets in, not too long after an animal has died. And you don't want to freeze it or cook it when it's in the midst of rigor mortis. In other words, when it's really, really stiff. That it's going to turn out tough, it's going to turn out chewy, it's not going to turn out very good. So it's always best, I believe in dry aging. You can, a lot of people will soak it in ice water or salt water or whatever. I dry age mine. I just put them in the fridge in a big bowl with a paper towel at the bottom to soak up any kind of moisture, for a day, 24 or 48 hours, something like that, until they're no longer stiff. And then you could freeze it, cook it, do whatever you want with it. So hopefully that kind of answers that question for you, Edwin. All right. J.R. Bailey says, can I use Avimin vitamin liquid for chicks in the brooder? And do you recommend Dumar medicated for the first 3 to 6 weeks? Okay, I'm not familiar with Avimin, but I don't see why you wouldn't be able to use it. Uh-oh, my all froze up. Looks like the videos. Okay, I think I got it. Anyway, I'm not familiar with Avimin, but I don't see why you wouldn't be able to use that. I mean, if it's, I'd have to look it up, the specifics of it. I don't typically use any kind of vitamins or any of those kinds of things. I just don't find it necessary. I don't find it necessary to use med in that. But again, it's not something that I typically do, and I just don't find it necessary. Is the video playing okay for you guys, or is it freezing up and choppy. All right, Cooncatcher, you got to quit spamming us here. I'll get to your comment eventually. Quit with the spam. It's buffering a little bit. Okay, let me try something here real quick and see. All right. I think we're back on. We'll see if it goes a little bit better now. Okay, where are we at here? All right, J.R. Bailey, you're responding to Hatch Poultry. Renee Parrish, so glad I made it to the live, sadly at work, but hey, I'm here. Well, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you don't get in trouble for spending your work time watching live broadcasts, but hey, thanks for joining us either way. John says from Magnolia, Texas. Thanks, John, for joining us from Texas. I'm not sure where Magnolia is, but Texas is a big state, so it could be anywhere. Faye and Me says my doe has 12 days since till it's been 30 days since I bred her. So she has 12 days until it's been 30 days. So 12 days left, basically. She should give birth in about 12 days. So yeah, I'd start, with the straw that I told you about earlier, throwing a handful of straw in there. I'd start that like any day now. Probably give her another couple of days. It'd be awful early for her to start that now, but just every day, take a handful of straw, throw it in there. When she picks it up, starts running around with it, you'll know, okay, time to put the nest box in. She's looking to build a nest. All right. William Chapman says, I have birds with long beaks. I asked on the Facebook page and got a few answers for taking care of it. Any way you would recommend? So, birds' beaks are a lot like our fingernails. They continue to grow. And sometimes if they don't have a way to wear them down easily, they will get overgrown. And you'll notice it's just like, like a dog's toenail or, something like that. You'll see there's a clear part at the end of their beak that's like, like I said, a dog's toenail. You can clip that off just with a pair of fingernail clippers, dog fingernail clippers, whatever, just snip it right off. I usually don't find it necessary, but sometimes it does. I've had a couple of birds where it has really grown pretty long and it is looking like it might be a little bit of a hindrance with them eating and those kinds of things. So I'll go ahead and clip it off. If you're going to do that, just be careful not to get back into the colored part of the beak. It's very similar to trimming a dog's toenails. You don't want to get into the quick of the nail. You just want to trim the dead skin at the end of it, if it makes sense. The dead cells, I guess it is at the end. So you can definitely do that. You could add things like cuttle bones and stuff like that they use for other birds. Usually I don't find that it's really that necessary, but occasionally it does happen. So hopefully that answers that one for you, William. All right. B. Arthur says, hi, my quails are not laying eggs yet. Can you help? Oh boy, that's probably the most common question we get. So a couple of things. Your birds should start laying when they're about 8 to 12 weeks old, assuming the conditions are right. The number one condition, the number one thing that birds need in order to lay eggs consistently would be light, 14 hours a day of light. The second most common thing, let me back up. If you don't have 14 hours a day of light from the daylight, which you probably don't if you live in North America, I'm not sure if you do or not. I'm not sure what part of the world you live in, but here, we're in spring. It's not quite a 14-hour day. If there are, where was I at? Got distracted by a work message came in, but it's nothing I have to drop to go deal with. I lost track of what I was saying. 14 hours a day of light. Right now it's springtime. We're not quite up to 14 hours a day of light. You would need to add an external light on to extend the daylight. You can either add that on before the sun comes up for a couple of hours. Then it doesn't matter what kind of light, just, whatever, a shop light, it doesn't matter. Just enough light that you could kind of read by it. It doesn't have to be super bright, anything like that. Get them up to 14 hours a day of light. That's the number one thing you can do. The second thing that really affects them is stress factors. So if you've been moving your birds a lot, like from one cage to another or anything like that, stop doing that. Leave them in one place. Just leave them alone. And that will help them get in the mood of laying eggs. When you move them around a lot, they get into, it just stresses them out and they tend to stop laying or not start laying yet. So if they're around 8 to 12 weeks, you got enough light on them, just leave them be, give them a little bit of time. They'll start laying pretty quick. All right. Z Bun Bear says, or maybe it's Zay Bun Bear, I don't know. Anyway, I processed my first chicken a few days ago, so I bought 12 more yesterday. Family thinks I'm crazy for being able to call, as I'm the animal lover of the family, now on the hunt for dairy goats. Yeah. Well, you can be an animal lover, a conservationist, a, nature lover, all that, but you still got to eat. And I personally think, I'm an animal lover as well. I mean, I very much like nature, very much like animals. God's creation, as the Bible says that creation declares the glory of God. I believe that. When I look at how nature works, and I'll get off on a rant if you let me, but I'm very much an animal lover. But I don't have a problem with calling my own food, killing my own food, because that is just who I am. I have to eat. And if I'm not doing it myself, I'm paying somebody else to do it. And chances are they don't care about the animals as much as I do. So they're not giving them nearly as good of a life. They're not, all those kinds of things factor into it. So anyway, that's just my opinion on it. But that's the way I go. I don't think you're crazy at all. All right. Lauren Phelps says, are Texas A&M good egg layers? Yeah, they're all, pretty much all Coternics. It doesn't matter if they're A&Ms, they're jumbos, they're wild colored. It doesn't matter. They're all going to lay about an egg a day. So they're all good egg layers. The thing I had a problem with Texas A&Ms is they seem to be more aggressive. I had more problems with fighting amongst those birds than I ever did with any of the other ones. The other thing I don't like about A&Ms is that you can't feather sex them. In other words, you can't just look at them and tell which one's a rooster, which one's a hen. You can do that with the wild brown color. I really like the jumbo pharaohs and the jumbo meat makers for that reason alone. They're good, big birds. They lay good sized eggs. They get up to weight fast. I mean, they're everything you're looking for in a meat and an egg layer. And you can just look at them and tell that's a rooster, that's a hen. So I like those a lot. That's just my opinion. All right. Country Air says, Chris, can you do a video on quail diseases? I recently had a bird that had stargazer's disease, and it took me forever to figure out what she had. So stargazer's disease, I believe, is another name for wryneck, but there are different reasons how birds can get wryneck. I believe that stargazer's disease is more caused by like a vitamin deficiency or something like that, which would be primarily a thiamine, vitamin E. I think those are the two, if I remember right. I'd have to look into that a little bit. Yeah, I'll see what I can do to maybe put together a video on that. Honestly, I'm not necessarily what you would call an absolute expert on quail diseases. I don't have too many problems with my birds. They don't get diseases very often. Every once in a while I have a bird that just dies for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it's not like multiple birds dying in a row or anything like that, so I just don't worry about it. But yeah, I'll see if I can do some research on the topic and maybe start providing you some things. All right. Hatch Poultry says, yes, this time of year is extremely busy. Thanks for clarifying that. We're trying our hardest to get all the orders out as fast as we can. Hey, I understand, Hatch Poultry, no problem. I get it. Excuse me. Okay. Jackie Long says, hi from Michigan. I have 7 kits and 7 weeks old, about 7 weeks old. Thanks for all your help. God bless you and your family. Going to dispatch them in a few weeks. It will be my first time. Well, first of all, thanks for joining us all the way from Michigan. I was actually born in Michigan. I was born in Battle Creek, but I pretty much lived in Missouri since I was 2. I mean, I was born in Battle Creek. My parents moved to Missouri. They're both from Missouri, so they moved to Michigan, had 2 kids, moved right back. I don't know. So my point to that is I'm from Missouri, really. But anyway, good luck with your butchery. The first time's always a little bit tricky. Just don't overthink it. Just do it, and you'll be able to get through it. It won't be. In ways, it won't be as hard as you think, and in ways, it'll probably be a little bit harder than you think. It's just always a little bit tricky that very first time. Again, if you just don't overthink it, you just do it, you're going to get through it just fine. But hang in there and good luck with it. All right. Rhonda says, thank you so much. Yes, everything is going great. Just put my faith in God, and everything is working out. That's the way it always goes. All right, JR says your face is a bit shiny. Dim the lights a bit. I'm afraid if I dim the lights, I can try that. We can see if that works. My face may be shiny because I shaved today, so I've got nice glowy part here. Let's see if I can turn that light down a little bit. Maybe that will help. Oh, I can't reach it. All right, there's a little bit dimmer. See, we start getting like looks like ISO issues to me, like grainy footage. But anyway, we can work with that. You guys can see me anyway. Hopefully see me good enough. If you can't see me, maybe it's a little bit of a blessing that you don't have to look at me while we're doing this. All right, Afton says 15 jumbo quail hatched out in the incubator today. So excited. Fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that. All right. Anyway, congratulations on your new bird. Sorry, I'm getting kind of distracted while I'm trying to talk to you at the same time. Verna says, oh, I'm glad. Oh, there we go. I am so glad I was able to catch this tonight. evening, everyone. Well, thanks, Verna, for joining us. I appreciate that. Sorry I was late tonight, by the way. Rhonda says, okay, she responded to somebody else. Robin's Nest says, do baby rabbits get shipped? If so, where can I buy baby rabbits? Thank you. It is possible to ship baby rabbits. Unfortunately, I don't know of a good place to recommend to you to say, go there and order your rabbits from them. I don't know anybody that actually ships rabbits out right now. There are some groups, and I'd have to really research to find them because I've never used them, but I know there are some groups that do transport. So like you'll have people that tend to travel across the country, for different things. To maybe they're going to fairs or to different whatever, and they'll offer to transport animals for you along that trip, and you just pay them a little bit. So if you find a buyer in a certain area and you found one of these people that would transport, then they would transport the animal for you. You're probably better off most of the time though trying to find somebody locally to you. If you find somebody locally to you that sells rabbits, or you can buy a few rabbits from, you're going to get rabbits that are more conditioned to your individual what do you call that, climate. There we go. And they'll probably do a little bit better for you than trying to ship rabbits in. I know it can be tricky sometimes to find rabbits, and I know right now especially it seems like meat rabbits are really hard to find. Hang in there, look at poultry swaps, look at FFA groups. You might contact the schools and ask them about FFA. If they have FFA groups, then those kids are great usually at finding sources for rabbits, because a lot of times they got rabbits for FFA and then they're done with FFA, so they really don't want the rabbits anymore, or they're getting ready to go off to college or something like that, so they'll get rid of the rabbits. You can get some really good bloodlines that way sometimes. All right, Robert Hessman says, I messaged you about a month-old bunny. Besides diarrhea, anything else to look out for? I'm sorry if I missed your message. I'm not the best sometimes at responding to messages that I get on other avenues as opposed to just the YouTube comments. Try to make a point to come in and answer all the comments, and I try to do that every day the best I can. But sometimes I get messages through like Facebook Messenger and those things. I don't always see those right away, and I'm not the best about always going in and checking on those. So I apologize if I haven't responded to you. I do remember now, though, talking about a month-old bunny that not really, I don't think there should be anything else you have to worry about. A month-old bunny is a little bit young for somebody to be removing from the mother and selling. Generally 6 weeks old, so it's about 2 weeks younger than it should be, I guess, before removing it from the mother and selling to you. But other than diarrhea, what you'd look for is weaning enteritis, a baby that got weaned too early and ended up with diarrhea or something like that. If it hasn't got it at this point, it's probably going to be just fine. There's probably nothing you have to worry about, though. That should be the only thing that would be the only thing I would be worried about anyway. Okay, JR says to Rhonda says, I'm physically impaired, so things go slowly, but I'll make it. Hope to move come October, November. You're looking at Alaska, I think it is. Wow. Rhonda says, ouch, yeah, the face seems to bleed a lot, talking about my nose here. Yeah, it was crazy how much it bled. It was ridiculous. All right, Hargers Adventures says, hello, love your videos. Well, thank you so much, Hargers. I appreciate that. And then we got a whole bunch of comments from Cooncatcher saying more quail videos. I'll get more quail videos up eventually. I've covered just about every topic on quail. So, I will do more quail videos. Don't worry. I got eggs in the incubator right now, so we'll probably talk about them once they hatch out. But I will get to them. All right, Aviary Birds and Company says, good evening from California. What age do you process your jumbo quail? It varies. Quail are not like a lot of other, not like rabbits anyway. And some of the chickens are kind of this way too, really, is that, older animals tend to be a little bit tougher. Quail aren't really that way, so I don't have any problem letting them grow out to be a lot older before I process them. With that being said, I usually process them around 8 to 10 weeks because that's right about the time that the food conversion to weight gain really starts to slow down. They're pretty much full grown by about 10 weeks. They will continue to grow after that, but it's much, much slower. So they take a lot more feed to gain a little bit more weight, whereas up to about 10 weeks, it doesn't take nearly as much feed to get on that much weight, if that kind of makes sense. So I usually process somewhere around 12 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks, somewhere right around in there. Sometimes at 8 weeks, it just depends. Hopefully that answered that for you and made sense. All right, Kathy Hampston says, yes, I'm glad you're on. How is everyone? I had another doe kindled Monday night with her second litter. Awesome, congratulations. Doing well, thank you, and congratulations on your new bunnies. Rhonda says, we actually started a YouTube channel. It's not under my name, but wanted to know if it's okay to say it on here. Yeah, absolutely. You can say your YouTube channel. Do it. And good luck with your YouTube channel. I hope it goes well. In fact, I will say this. If you're in the Facebook group, the Slightly Rednecked Facebook group, and you want to post your YouTube videos, you can do that as long as they're topical. We get a lot of people that go in there and post like music videos that they put together, or just like their comedy stuff that they're doing. That's not topical to what we do here. So, it's not I don't mind you sharing anything that's topical, whether it's you put it out, somebody else, another YouTube channel. I don't care. That's fine. If it's topical to what we talk about, growing your own food, raising quail, raising rabbits, vegetable gardening, any of those kinds of things, feel free to share it. Again, I don't care if it's my channel, your channel, or somebody I've never heard of's channel or whatever. There's a lot of great YouTube channels out there. I watch a lot of different, well, I don't watch a lot of them, but I watch some of them, and I'm always interested in hearing what other people have to say. So I don't mind you guys sharing that at all. Definitely you can share your own content too, but again, don't come in there just, I don't want the group to turn into where you're just, people are just spamming us with, like I said, music videos and political posts and their commentary on the current, economic crisis, whatever. That's not what that group is set up for. There's other places where you can get that. All right. Yeah. Hatch Poultry says, if only we were a moderator so we could stop the spam. I know, I'm sorry. Are we still getting spam? No, I think it kind of quit, didn't it? Hopefully. I'm sorry about that, guys. I need to set up some moderators, don't I? So, all right. Heather Carlson says, hello, how are you? I'm doing well, thank you. I'm glad to see you here. Thanks for joining. Robert Spencer says, I have a family of 4, soon to be 5. Wow. And just starting to get into keeping quail for protein for my family. How many should I shoot for in case of meat shortages? How often should I hatch? Wow, that's a big question to answer. And I don't know that I can answer it for you. I mean, it's really going to depend on your specific situation. First of all, has anybody in your family ever eaten quail? If they haven't, you might want to introduce them to the quail meat first, see if they actually like it. Because you don't want to get into a bunch of quail and then everybody in the family is like, I don't like that, I don't want to eat that. So you might start off small with just, a couple of birds, a smaller flock or whatever. See, I mean, you won't have a problem selling them probably if it came down to it. But again, I wouldn't jump in too far. Now with that being said, it just depends on how often you want to eat quail. I mean, you're gonna have to, I mean, I can't answer that for you. If you want to eat it once a week, you can probably figure about 2 birds, assuming you're having other things with the meal and not just quail. You can probably figure about 2 birds per person per meal. So with 4, and I'm assuming you're soon to be 5, that won't be another person necessarily eating right away. They'll be eating, but not quail right away. First, and congratulations on that, by the way. So you figure a family of 4 basically is what we're talking about. If you want to feed 4 people once a week, you're going to figure about 8 birds a week. So you're just going to have to, I mean, it depends on how big your incubator is, how many you incubate at one time. You can kind of figure it takes about, let's see, we're looking at 8 weeks plus 3 roughly. So, you're looking at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13, 14 weeks from the time you set the eggs to the time they're going to be ready to process. You'll have to just do some kind of backwards math. I'm notoriously bad at on-the-fly math, as many of you pointed out in my last video when I tried to tried to do the math to figure out how many quail eggs a chicken rail would handle. So I don't know that I can tell you exactly how many birds you need. You really don't need as many birds as you think. I mean, if you've got, say, even just 10 hens and 2 roosters, that's going to produce 10 eggs a day. So over the course of a week, you're going to get, say 5 days would be 50 eggs, roughly 50 eggs, maybe 48, maybe 60, or maybe 52. I mean, it's going to be right in that area of 50 eggs. So another 2 days would be, another like 60 eggs roughly you're going to get out of them, or 70, I should say, 70 eggs you're going to get out of them. And you could collect that in a week. Now, here's the thing is if you're not incubating on a regular basis, 70 eggs a week is a lot to eat. So, again, how many eggs do you want to eat a time? Figure 2 to 3 quail eggs, probably about 3 quail eggs per chicken egg. So how many eggs do you want to eat every week? You're going to have to do some math on that. I don't know that I can answer it for you, but I would think a group of like 10 birds, 10 hens, 2 roosters is going to give you plenty of eggs to keep incubating on a regular basis, to keep you in eggs, to keep you eating eggs without getting too overwhelmed, be able to keep it small. So if you're incubating fairly regularly, you should have no problems keeping that. I mean, even if you assume if you put 70 eggs in and you have a say a 50% hatch rate, which if you're not, experienced with hatching, that's not terrible. That's not great, but it's just assume a 50% hatch rate. What's that? 35 birds roughly. And if you're feeding 4 people once a week, that's, let's see, 8, 16, that's about a month's worth of meals once a week. Is that right? Anyway, you get what I'm talking about, hopefully. I don't know that I can do better than that, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Hopefully that gave you something to think about, though, Robert, and answered your question. So, all right. Edwin says, thank you. You're absolutely welcome. Harger's Adventure says, love the shirt. What shirt am I wearing today? Oh, I can look right there, can't I? Oh, yeah, this is one of my favorite Ronald Reagan quotes. Love it. All right. Owen Miller says, how is everything going there? Doing very well, thank you. David Jorgensen, I think is how it's pronounced, says, I noticed a brown dot on the back of the head of some of my jumbo white quail chicks. Is that a male or female distinguishing mark? No, it's just a mark that some of them have. It's not really definitely male or female or anything like that. You really can't tell. You're going to have to just wait until they get big enough to start laying eggs and crowing, and then Vince sex them to find out which ones are which. All right. Yeah, I know, guys, I should block the spammers, but I gave him a warning, and it looks like it kind of quit. I talk too much, I know, and there's a delay, and by the time I get to answering there's a lot of chats below me that I haven't even read yet, so it takes me sometimes to figure out that somebody's spamming us. I'm sorry. All right, Finn says, stop spamming. Chris is going to get annoyed. That's not fair on him. Well, I appreciate it. I don't get too annoyed by it. It's annoying. It's more annoying if I ask him to quit and then they keep doing it. But he did quit. He even said he'd quit. So all is forgiven. It's all good. All right, Kathy Hampton says, we just smoked a rabbit for a better part of a day. How did you keep it lit? No, I'm just kidding. Terrible joke. We smoked a rabbit for the better part of a day. It came out mushy, really. Says, I've read that the rabbit is best fried for a young rabbit and as an older rabbit for longer cooking to get the same consistency of chicken, I think is what you're saying. I don't really think rabbit does well fried. To me, it doesn't have enough fat on it to fry it up well. It always kind of comes out a little bit tough, a little bit, I don't know. To me, it's just not good fried. I prefer it baked or braised or in a crock pot or something like that. I have smoked rabbits before as well, but I've never had them come out mushy in the smoker. That's kind of a weird thing. I don't know exactly what could have caused that. I'm not an expert at smoking meats, so I don't know that I can answer that one for you, unfortunately. I would say, try it in a pressure cooker does really well. I think it does pretty well in a crock pot, and then you can shred it up, use it like, shredded chicken meat for enchiladas, any of those kinds of things. Or braising it, baking it in, with a little bit of liquid in it, usually like chicken broth or something like that. Don't submerge it completely in chicken broth, but a little bit of chicken broth in there. Actually, one of the ways that I really like it is one of those McCormick Seasoning sells a bag-in chicken seasoning. It's like it comes in a fairly large, like envelope style package. It'll be over in like where the chili seasonings and all those things are. And like the soup mix, all the flat packages. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. And it comes with a bag and a seasoning mix, and you're supposed to put vegetables in the bottom of the bag, put your chicken in there, sprinkle the seasoning over it, tie the bag up, and then bake it. Works really, really well with rabbit. So that's a good way to do it as well. All right. So hopefully, anyway, that gives you some things to think about. Vernon Young says to Robert, he's talking to Robert Spencer. I'm going to skip that one because I think we're running close on time. Oh my gosh, we're right at 8 o'clock. I got to get this thing wrapped up. I was a little bit late getting in here, so I'll go for just a minute or two more, but I got to go to bed here soon so I can get up at 4:30 in the morning and start work again. All right, Marius says, hello, Chris from South Africa. It's 2:40 in the morning now. Oh my goodness, thanks for staying up late or getting up early one way or the other and joining us. I appreciate that. James Kronk says, do you hunt, fish, or trap? If so, what? I do. Primarily my hunting is deer, turkey. It's turkey season right now, so I've been trying to find some time to hunt. Squirrel. I do hunt squirrel occasionally. That's usually about it that I hunt. I do fish. That's one of my favorite pastimes. Love it. I don't keep a lot of fish. I keep a couple maybe once or twice a year, but I do fish a lot. I don't do any trapping though. That's just not really my thing. But I'm not saying you shouldn't. It's just not really my deal. All right. All right. Yeah, Kathy says also had that same problem when we stewed one. Has anyone else had the problem with mushy rabbit meat? Yeah, it can happen from time to time, but usually not being smoked. It's not mushy. I'm not. I'm sure. I'm sorry. I can't answer that one for you. That's a tough one. Yep. Amen to that. So, all right, guys. I got to wrap this thing up here. I got a bunch of comments I didn't get answered. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your chat tonight. If you want to, if it's a question that I didn't get answered and you needed asked, wait till the video is over and it'll post, and then you can go in and leave a comment, and I'll get to the comment usually within the next day or two. I try to answer every comment. Sometimes I don't get to them, or sometimes I don't see them because they get marked as probable spam, especially if you put a link in there, like a link to another video or a link to a website or something like that. A lot of times YouTube catches that, marks it as spam, and I never see it. So don't be offended if I didn't respond to your comment. You can leave it again on another video somewhere or whatever. Give me a day or two to respond. I don't always get to them right away, but I will try to get to them as soon as I can. So anyway, sorry I got to wrap this one up. Sorry it was a little bit shorter than normal, but thanks guys for hanging out, for being patient, for joining me on this. I appreciate that. God bless each and every one of you, and hopefully we will see you guys next week. Take care, and good night.